Eklutna Annie. Eklutna Annie was the nickname given to a young woman whose skeletal remains were discovered near Eklutna, Alaska, 41 years ago on July 17, 1980. Her bones were found buried alongside a power line near the grave of another victim who is now identified. An Alaskan serial named Robert Hansen, who was known as the Baker Butcher, admitted to taking her life after she made attempts to escape his vehicle. He owned a bakery which was also conveniently located in his hunting grounds. Annie is his last unidentified victim. Hansen told authorities she was either a topless dancer or prostitute. While he claims she came from Kodiak, Alaska, others have reasons to believe she may have been from California. This case caused my daughter and I to look a little closer at the depictions that you find of these victims, and not very often do they depict the hairstyles of that time. My daughter's always teasing me about the 80s hair she sees in pictures, and one of Annie's actually does look like the kind of pictures I have from myself and my friends at that time. I don't know if I can remember any of my friends not having a perm. And we have a lot of does from 80s. I was going to use stock footage to point out the 80s and 90s hairstyles that were normal for the time, but my daughter dared me, instead of putting other people on blast, to use my own pictures from that time. So here's the one time you get to see what I look like. Now I'm as mortified by my 80s style as my children are. As tongue-in-cheek as this is, it does bring up a real issue, just how different some of the photos probably are, simply because of the styles of that time. And we have a lot of does from the 80s and early 90s that haven't been identified yet. It actually wouldn't be a bad idea to go back and remake images with the correct hairstyles. If someone didn't know me back then, they probably wouldn't ever guess I look like this, so I suspect the same could be said the other way around. I have super fine straight hair. In fact, it's so fine that my ponytail is the size of a quarter, yet back in the 80s, my hair was so damaged and so big I couldn't shove it into a banana clip. It's a very tangible difference in between then and now, or then and what would have been for them. It was normal to spend time making it as big as possible. So I also decided to flash what I look like now to make the point. All of this says it shows how different people look in these identifications. And a concerning factor is that so much hinges on people looking at these and figuring out who the people were. It does seem strange that they don't offer slight variations in these pictures. That's my rant anyway. I believe they need to do better with their recreations to meet the styles of the times. As for the butcher baker, his last unidentified victim was identified as Robin Pelkey. The reason he was called the butcher baker is he was a well-known baker. He wasn't even someone they would have expected. He was considered shy and well-liked. He was a father, a husband, and a monster. He started in 1971 and got away with it until 1983. Even then, it was a close call, and he almost got away with it. There are 17 known victims, and the monster was known for transporting them in a private plane to various areas where he disposed of them. The monster nearly got away. His last victim escaped, and she knew her captor. But it turns out the police were all too willing to believe the local business owner over a young, at-risk prostitute who even pointed Hansen's plane out to the police. Even after she described the inside of his car, the inside of his home, and they found his shoes that were left behind. The police still chose to believe it was consensual, and she was trying to shake him down for money. After all, he was a pillar of the community, and he even had an alibi. Turns out it was an alibi he talked his friend into giving him, so it was easier to believe the teenage girl was just trying to blackmail him. Even though the handcuffs he put on her when he had her were still intact when the police found her. Thankfully, however, one detective pushed back against this scenario, or there probably would have been way more victims. That officer happened to be assigned to the case where other victims of his had been found. He was the one convinced the culprit was a serial, and he put two and two together, realizing that Hansen was his man. A warrant was finally issued, and it turned out that the monster was also an incredibly stupid man who kept souvenirs. It's chilling to realize how many victims there could have been, had this gone just a little bit differently. Hansen, in the end, got the one thing he didn't allow his victims, the ability to grow old and die of natural causes, something he was able to do. This is the last piece of a very sad story, and hopefully Annie's family will someday know what happened to her. She had auburn brown or reddish hair and wore handmade copper jewelry. She also owned a Timex watch. She was likely of European ancestry but may have had some Native American blood. The jewelry may be one of the biggest clues that can be seen here. She also had a white shell ring with a brown inset. Family members would be looking for someone who went missing likely as a teen and was born around 1955 to 1964, and was perhaps from Alaska or California, and she was maybe 5'1", though sometimes these estimates are off, so always take them with a grain of salt. If you have any idea who she might be, please call the number on your screen. Eklutna Annie has gone unidentified for 41 years. The Anaheim Jane Doe, identified as Tracy Hobson. I like to start off usually with the information on who the victim was because I always feel like that's the most important thing. But the truth is, in this case, I don't really know. It always profoundly bothers me when there's no pictures or anecdotes about the victim that shows that they were loved. Tracy does have some photos. The extent of information is simply that she was 20 years old and living in Anaheim in 1987. It appears she was never reported missing. Not that this indicates she wasn't missed. In many cases, it turns out family members did try to report back then, but the police wouldn't take the case, as the main consensus was that they were adults and they had a right to go missing. Unfortunately, it was this belief that led to many John and Jane Does who went unidentified for decades. It's possible this is also the case for Tracy. Tracy was found on August 30th, 1987, about 50 feet off of Santa Ana Canyon Road in Anaheim, California, near the highway. There were no clothes or identifications near her. It was clear her murder was brutal. She had been stabbed many times, and whoever took her life cut off her hands. The only items found near her body were a red handkerchief and a length of cord. The clay model recreations of what she may have looked like was the first ever done in Orange County. Sadly, no one came forward to suggest her name, and the case remained cold. They submitted her DNA in 2005 to CODIS, and eventually NamUs, but no match was ever made. The comparison in those cases are through a smaller database, because unless someone submitted their DNA looking for a missing relative or a close family member who committed a crime, no matches are made. Using GEDmatch is still limited to only some cases. It would not be until 2018 that the DNA Doe Project used genome sequencing to search GEDmatch and, with the help of 12 volunteers, led to Tracy's name. The police released the statement that there is no real closure, but there is mental release for the family, who now have to go on with their lives knowing what happened to Tracy. Tracy's killer is still unknown. If you have any information on this case, please call the number on your screen. Tracy Corrine Hobson went unidentified for 31 years. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. Please take a moment and hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. Take care of yourselves and each other.